Hello YouTube vintage audio collectors. This is a Dynaco SCA-50. It's an integrated amplifier, all transistor. It has a similar look as the Tube SCA-35 and the 80Q that came after that. But this one is 1970s technology. Has the modular boards. Well, they're not really modular. I mean, you've got to unsolder so many wires in each board. But these have a particular problem, and I've been doing this a long time, and a lot of them have a low-level hum. As you can see here, I replaced the filter capacitors. There was a couple of cans here. The new ones are a lot smaller. Two 4700 microfarad filter capacitors. Did all the electrolytics, including these non-polarized ones on the preamp board. They're Rishi caps that I used, and then on the two power amp modules, they're new MEAC capacitors. And this is kind of a neat amp. I've always liked these. They have a nice sound, a little bit tube-like, but they have that ground hum noise, and it's always been kind of a nagging thing. You know, every time I bought this one, I thought, I bet you this one has that same issue. I'm thinking back decades on these. And this time I just kind of got, you know what? I'm going to figure out what it is. Now this was a factory wired Dynaco. So as you can see, it's very nice and neat. The boards are wave soldered, very neat job. And the way the ground configuration went, the actual chassis and the ground bus are separate, but they do meet at the input board back here. So basically what you have is the center tap of the secondary winding is between the two capacitors, minus on one, plus on the other. It's a split power supply, a plus and a minus on each side, and full wave rectifier bridge. And what it did, what was here before, it had a bunch of wires coming here. The center tap from the transformer, from the headphone jack, from the speaker jack, and then you had this myriad of ground wires between the boards and going to the various controls. And I remember learning years ago when I was in college about star configuration if you have an issue with ground loops. So basically I changed the grounding around on this. The center tap, the center of the two cans here, is no longer chassis ground. It's now floating. And there's one ground wire that goes to the main board. And from here they go out in a star configuration. So the headphone jack to the controls, a wire to the phono preamp, wire to the two output boards, wire to the speaker terminals. And turned it on, tested it, absolutely dead quiet. And I think the theory behind this is everything comes back to a central point. Now if you have a chassis, and it's different with each one, tube gear is different as well, you can have a ground point at the jacks here, a ground point back here, you can have the can caps grounded, you can have them all over the chassis. It doesn't seem to be a problem. Solid state, it seems to be different, especially with circuit boards, and it's because you don't have the shielding. With a tube amp you have a metal chassis, tubes above, components below. But if you're ever working on SCA-50 and you just, especially when you're listening to the headphone jack and you just can't get rid of that low level annoying hum, that's what you need to do. You need to bring the grounds all back to one point and then to the center tap of the transformer in the zero position, or that's what I used to call it, between the two filter capacitors. Anyway, thanks for watching and listening.